talking about this reminds me of Dan Gable's quote, "Once you've wrestled, everything in life is easy."
Do you think that it would be wise for like a lot of people to explore like a combat sport in some way, like even just the preparation for it, the training, the sparring, like not trying to go UFC or not trying to like which you wouldn't be able to anyway, but not trying to, you know, push into like the actual sport of it. But do you think it'd be a good idea? I mean, it must turn you inside out in some ways.
I think it's great, and I tried to encourage people to do it. It's a great workout. You know, punching a bag, even taking a kickboxing class, you know how much stress relief that is, just punching something, especially something that's not going to punch you back, you know, and it's a insane workout. I mean, anyone that's actually done it after was like, holy hell, I was so tired, you know, or grappling, jiu-jitsu classes, wrestling, you know, stuff that it's different than your standard, just go to the gym, run on the treadmill, lift some weights and go home, you know, it's different. It's completely different. So, you know, I encourage people to get in there and try it. Most people that do it fall in love with it. And it's just a great way to stay healthy and fit and just switch it up from the normal routine of gym life.
It kind of seems like the underlying thing that's kind of behind everything is like a fight, either like getting into a fight, like facing a confrontation, or trying to figure out how to like wiggle your way out of one or to maneuver your way around one, whether it's like a physical confrontation or it's just in like everyday life of not wanting to like take on a confrontation. Have you kind of found that it's assisted you in just being like maybe just super straightforward with people?
100%. And talking about this reminds me of Dan Gable's quote, "Once you've wrestled, everything in life is easy." And I've heard that quote since I was young in this sport. And obviously at the time it doesn't make sense because, you know, you're a kid, your life is easy, you know, but
you're like, wrestling's easy and fun. What's he talking about?
Yeah. Going through college, after graduating, jumping in the fight game, you know, having to figure out bills and, you know, car payments and cell phone bills and, you know, making sure, basically being an adult and having responsibilities and starting a family and going through all that. It's like, you look back at that quote and you're like, damn, like, he's right. Like getting in a lot of these tough situations where I've been in them and I've had other friends and like family members that get in those same positions and crack and crumble and fall apart. And it's like, yeah, it's not fun. It's difficult, but it's not something that I would feel like I'd break over. And I feel like it helps push through those hard times. So I think, and that could be anything from jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, boxing. It doesn't have to be wrestling, but I think pushing yourself to those mental and physical limits and really testing yourself and like teaching your body and your mind that, God, I can actually go a little bit further than I thought and go through these tough times and still survive and live. It transfers over into life too. And I think it's good. I think it's good for anybody to go through that stuff.
You know, Chad, Amadeo, I'm curious about you guys' thoughts on this. Do you have kids? Amadeo, do you have kids?
Yeah, I have one.
You have one? Okay, perfect. I started jiu-jitsu 6 years ago, and I mean, before that, I didn't really get in fights because people look at me, I'm a big black dude, so not really going to try anything. But it's not like I knew how to defend myself. So if somebody did try to fight me, I'd be like, I'd probably sprint away. But I'm not even looking for fights these days either. But jiu-jitsu has been I'm fucking addicted to it. And just also knowing that I could defend myself in a confrontation, I feel confident in that.
Yeah.
Now, for people who have kids, right? What would you guys suggest would be the martial art that maybe they should start their kids in if they did? Like, where would you maybe have them start?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think wrestling for me, I'd like to get my daughters into wrestling or jits. I think anything grappling, body awareness, being able to understand body movement is going to be key, especially with defending themselves against somebody, you know, that's trying to attack them or, you know, whatever. But I definitely want my daughters to get in some type of martial arts. I'll probably let them choose if it's something that they feel like they can make that decision on. If not, I'll probably at least start them off in wrestling.
Okay.
What do you think, sorry to cut you off, like injury-wise, which one do you think is less injuries, wrestling or jiu-jitsu?
Probably jiu-jitsu. I think jiu-jitsu is typically a little bit slower paced, a little bit more, I guess, like a chess, I guess more of like a chess match, you know, depending. I mean, I don't grapple like that, but most people, would you say it's kind of a slower pace? You're thinking, you're you know, methodical. That's the word.
Trying to maybe work with each other.
Yeah, where wrestling, a lot of the times it's like boom, 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 just.
And then when wrestlers do no-gi, they're nightmarish.
Yeah, that's all I do is no-gi. That's what I'm talking about. Like when I grapple, I'm trying to go balls to the wall.
Yeah, I would imagine it's probably easier to make a wrestler jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah,
than it is to make a jiu-jitsu grappler a wrestler.
When a wrestler comes to jiu-jitsu, you can tell. Like you can just tell by the way they move. I spar with a lot of guys who are former wrestlers or who wrestle and do jiu-jitsu. Like our boy Josh Settlage. When Josh was a white belt and he came into doing jiu-jitsu, he already was fucking people up. Like he was fucking blue belts up because of just his wrestling background. And then because he's a grappler, picks it up so quick. But I mean, I think as an adult, to pick up wrestling is much harder than knowing wrestling as a kid. Like jiu-jitsu, people can't pick up wrestling like wrestlers can pick up jiu-jitsu.
And some people might not just understand aggression, you know? A lot of times they do. A lot of times they have a decent understanding of, and being like overly aggressive is not going to help you necessarily in wrestling, and it's not necessarily going to help. It's probably going to hurt you somewhat in jiu-jitsu, but you do need to be like ready to like go. Like it is a fight, right? And so people with a wrestling background, they at least have that coming in, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I think wrestling, at least for me, I was taught like, you know when it's go time, you know when it's time to save energy, you know when it's time to kind of be a little bit more relaxed, and then you know when it's like balls to the wall. And I think wrestling teaches you that body awareness of knowing like in certain instances, like you have to go 100%, because if you half-ass it, you're going to get pinned or you're going to get caught. So I think it definitely trains you in that sense.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now on this podcast, Mark, Andrew, and I, we talk about fasting a lot. We talk about the ketogenic diet and a lot of different types of diets, but Bubs Naturals has a product. They have the collagen protein, which is amazing. They have these apple cider vinegar gummies, which are like crack, but they have
they have these
MCT oil powder packets that I've never used to do this, but in the morning I'll wake up and I'll put it in coffee, and the smoothness, number one, in terms of the mixing is amazing, but the consistency of my energy through the day because of the MCT oil powder is peak. Andrew, how's your experience with it?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. It's like the best way to start the day. You're satiated, you're energized, and you're just ready to crush the day. So if you guys want to get in on this MCT oil powder, head over to bubsnaturals.com, and at checkout, enter promo code Power Project to save 20% off your entire order. Again, Bubs Naturals, promo code Power Project to save 20% off. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
I think one thing that I really do like about jiu-jitsu or martial arts is that they have a belt system for young kids, and it's like there's always a next level, you know, like that process that they have to go through to keep getting better. That's like a good thing. A lot of other sports don't have.
Wrestling doesn't have anything like rankings in any sense, right?
No, it's all weight classes. So you might get, and this was always a benefit for me, is I was always small for my age, and so I would be usually wrestling guys that were a year or two younger than me, because I was would that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. So, I was just small for my weight. I was 80 pounds my freshman year in high school. Like I was a tiny little guy. Yeah. So I was actually JV. I didn't even, because 103s was the smallest weight class, and we had, I think, a senior on our team that was cut down to 103. So I put in so much time in the gym for freshman year and sophomore year. That's when I really started taking supplements. I think I started taking creatine and really focusing on protein and, your carbohydrates. And that's where it all kind of began for me. And then I actually became obsessed with lifting weights and fell in love with it.
Check that out.
Oh yeah. That was me back in the day. 42 pounds right there.
Sick.
Oh yeah.
5 years old.
The other kid's in like jean shorts.
Look at that.
Stonewashed.
That is dope.
Oh yeah. But yeah, man, I
Has that ever been a detriment? Because sometimes we hear that. We sometimes hear like guys that are holding on to extra muscle, they might be more winded. Have you ever found or lose flexibility or anything like that?
I've never been flexible, so that's out the window from day one.
Has that ever been a limiting factor for you think?
Not in wrestling. Maybe in fighting, yeah, because of kicking and stuff like that. It's hard for me to get anything up high. But in wrestling, I always felt good being stiff and strong as hell. I could just muscle people and quick too, just staying quick, stiff and strong.
Yeah, wrestlers are interesting because like you watch them sometimes walk around and it might walk around all weird.
Dan Hindo just.
But yeah, then they'll just like totally destroy people. You're like, how is this guy able to move like
and
that?
the way that they move, like you think that because they're
feet
so
are pointed
stiff,
out and they kind of waddle around and bam, you're like, holy fuck.
Yeah, it's weird. Like because of the way they walk, you're like, oh, he's gonna be stiff, and then they fucking do circles around you and shit.
Yeah.
They have that tenacity. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think everything's just so tight from, grappling, wrestling. You're basically, it's the same as lifting. Everything's squeezing and tight always. So it's like that builds that strength. And I think everything just gets so tight that it doesn't want to move, It's like, but it works. I mean, you get in there and you can just muscle a dude around. And yeah, I've always liked being strong. That was something I always focused on, even through college, just, trying to hit the weights as much as I could. Get as strong as I possibly can for my weight. And I felt good. My senior year actually jumped up because I did way too much weight cutting down to 125s my first couple years and just about killed myself. I ended up becoming an All-American for the first time at 125s. But man, cutting that weight, weighing in once a week, sometimes twice a week, and having to wrestle an hour after making weight, dude, it was like brutal. And so the next year, my coaches wanted me to just go up to 133s, 132s or 133s. And so beginning of the year, I started cutting, and I was still going to have to cut like 20 pounds. And I was like, you know what? I went in, I had a meeting with them and said, it's my senior year. I was like, I would really like to go up to 141s, especially if I'm going to be fighting after this. And the lowest weight class at that time was 145s. So I'm going to be fighting 145s. I might as well get used to dealing with people a little bit bigger than me. So my coaches were like, Sammy Henson and John Azevedo, and they're like, look, we don't advise this. Like, we think you'll do better at 33s, but if it's something, we saw how bad you killed yourself the last 2 years trying to cut to 25s, and as long as they're like, just so you know, if you start losing to guys that are bigger than you later in the season just because they're bigger, not that they're better, you're not going to cut back down. And so I'm like, fine. And I ended up going undefeated the entire season.
Oh, nice.
My only loss was in the NCAA finals. And so it was the best season I ever had in my whole life.
Yeah.
And looking back, I'm like, I wish I would have known that.
Yeah.
I would have not cut so much weight my entire high school career and college career, but that's one of those things.
Hey, little mama, let me whisper in your ear. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel because we continue to bring you peak content on this channel. Obviously, you guys are here. You guys have watched the whole video. So like, comment, subscribe. All right. See you later.